I'm not one of these makeup artists that kind of just dictates the look. I am a firm believer, especially in character work. I like having this synergetic relationship with my talent. You know, if it's something that they might have an idea in as a character piece, Johnny Depp's well known for it, adding his own things to his makeup. And his makeup artist has always worked with him when it's been big character makeups. Johnny's always had ideas. So this is something that happens a lot, especially with the really creative characters.
Welcome to the Filmmaker Mixer podcast, the podcast by filmmakers for filmmakers. Filmmaker Mixer is a creative hub where aspiring and established filmmakers come together to share experiences, insights, strategies, and inspiration.
Hello, everybody. This is the Filmmaker Mixer podcast, and today we are chatting with someone who I think I can safely say is now a friend of the show. She's been on before, and if you're on twice, you're a friend of the show.
Yay!
We have,
Thank you.
Siån Richards, makeup designer, makeup artist. Siån, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's good to be back.
Well, you should be excited. Sinners is up for a lot of awards, and man, you should be proud.
I am. You know, it was definitely a labor of love. I think that is seen on the screen. You can definitely see it was a film that we made from a place of love and deep commitment. So I'm very happy. It deserves it. Everyone deserves it. And yay us.
Well, I'm curious about something. We touched on some of this stuff the last time we talked, but we're going to get a little deeper into it. One of the most important things is the relationship between the makeup artist and the talent. It's not just about making them look good, but it's about preparing them for the role, getting them there emotionally, connecting with them, making them feel good about what you're doing. So I'm curious, explain that a little bit. How does that work, that relationship?
I mean, for me, it's always been a place of that the makeup trailer, wherever you're working out of, is a cocoon. You know, they come in. It needs to be a safe space, a place of tranquility, because oftentimes they'll be going over their script, or just even if they're exhausted because the schedule is so heavy that they use that makeup time maybe to catch up on some rest and just recovery, especially for the stars. You know, they usually, number one on the call sheet is usually in every single scene. It's a heavy workload. Right. You know, the guys also will go to the gym and do a lot of training and keep themselves going. So, you know, when you think about the way the commitment an actor has to give to a film, it's not just about the filming day. It's about all of the prep work that they do once they're off set and back at home. They don't just get to sit down, have some food or a glass of wine and relax. There are hours of additional work. And so with that in mind, I've always so respected them for it, because, you know, I know the amount of work I do off the scene too, but it doesn't place me in front of a camera in a place of vulnerability, and I don't have to deliver in front of a lens. I deliver in my safe space, but they have to be on point all the time, be healthy, be happy, be productive, deliver emotional stuff sometimes, whatever it is. You know, they have a lot of responsibility placed upon them. And so when they come into the makeup trailer, you know, a makeup artist, it's not just about paint. It's about creating the right ambience and the right environment so that they can just start their day gently and progressively better. And then, of course, the work enables them to have the confidence that they look right in front of the camera, you know, for whatever their role demands. And, you know, it's just that it should be their sanctuary. Apart from their trailer, it's a sanctuary for artists. It should always be that way. So I'm quite strong on my protection for my artists. And, you know, I always speak to the ADs about, don't keep knocking on the door. Send us a text. I want it quiet for them. You know, little music, little tea.
Yeah, what's your routine?
When I go in the morning, I will generally put on a diffuser. So I have aromatherapy going. And depending on what type of scene they're going to be filming, I adjust the type of oil I'm using to
no kidding.
either. Yeah.
Oh,
So, if they need to relax, there's lavender and a little chamomile or whatever, and they can have chamomile tea if they want to, or whatever. If they need to be more invigorated, I'll put some rosemary or I'll put a little ginger or a little citrus, a little grapefruit. It changes the vibration of the room very much. So that's very important for me. My makeup station is always laid out. I have a wooden mat across the base. I don't just do plastic at all. I'll have crystals on my station. I have a Buddha on my station so that it's just a place where they can just feel like it's a home from home. The place smells good. If I've got someone that's got a long makeup, there's always a neck cushion. There are blankets if they're cold. If it's really cold, I have heated blankets. I always take a kitchen. So I'm a firm believer in teas. I've helped many an actor when their throat is rasping. I'll blend teas and fresh herbs and roots and things for them just to take care of them. Honey, ginger, lemon, all sorts of things, clove, nutmeg, keep their chest clear, a little cayenne pepper, all sorts of things.
I just want to come over and hang out in your makeup trailer.
I know. Do you know what? Everybody says that, and it's really funny because it's not only that, but if I go and do a personal and I'm sharing a part of the trailer with the main trailer, artists will say, it smells really good down there. I don't know what's going on down there, but I want to be in there. It's like, yeah, I've had it happen for years now. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about something while we're staying on the actor and their preparation and so forth. How do you think? Well, I'm going to put it this way. We were interviewing an actress one time, and she said that she was, getting into the character and really trying to find the character. And it wasn't until she got a particular piece of wardrobe that she thought, this speaks to me. Now I really, that one simple thing helped her embody this character. Does that happen with makeup?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And generally it happens during the testing process.
Oh, interesting.
Um, yes. So, you know, it's for example, when I started painting Michael B. Jordan for Smoke and Stack characters, they were so very different. And he could see the difference and it started to help him place himself, especially for Smoke, which was
Oh,
the bigger role, really, the more difficult role for him to portray because of all of the sort of mindset that Smoke had to have as the responsible brother. So, he could see things. Again, when I'm with Lakeith, putting him into a character, we will play together. Like as Lakeith's personal, I've always said to him, what do you think about this? Have you got anything that you want to add to this? Where can we go with this? And we have a really great balance and synergy where he generally loves ideas that I come up with, but Lakeith has got such a brilliant eye. And the way his mind works is so special. He will enable me to evolve certain things because I might not have seen them before. And he comes up with them. And then when I do it to him, he goes, I see it now. So, definitely I've had it happen on many occasions, whether
can
it's a lens going in or a wig styled in a certain way, whatever it is, there are always hooks and keys that help an actor. Yeah.
interesting. So there's a relationship between you and the actor, where the actor is actually giving you some input on some of the ideas.
I want it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these makeup artists that kind of just dictates the look. I am a firm believer, especially in character work. I think it's a bit different with prosthetics, especially if you're doing full face prosthetics. You've molded the thing, you're covering the guy's entire face. So really, I don't know, they control it a lot more. But for me, I like having this synergetic relationship with my talent because they're playing the role, they're inhabiting that role. Maybe they've got an idea. There's a great story about Tilda Swinton in Grand Budapest Hotel. And, she played the old lady, the rich
Mhm.
old lady. And they did this full prosthetic on her done by Marc Coulier. And Francis Hannon was the designer. And at the end of it, Franny gave Tilda the lip pencil to do her lips. And Tilda put it on with her other hand. So if you're right-handed, she did it left-handed, and she did her lip line so she could have this really messed up thing. And I often do the same sort of thing. I'll give actresses, do your lip liner, unless I want to change the shape of their mouth. You know, if it's something that they might have an idea in as a a character piece. Johnny Depp's well known for it, adding his own things to his makeup. And his makeup artist has always worked with him. When it's been big character makeups, Johnny's always had ideas. So this is something that happens a lot, especially with the really creative characters. You know, maybe not so much on beauty makeup. Maybe they'll do their own lip because a lot of actresses like to do that. They like to do their own mascara. But in terms of character work, I think that's where the real collaboration starts to happen, because you're a team. It's not just one person doing it to another.
So one of the things we talked about last time, and I want to touch on it again and go into a little deeper dive, was the idea of in film and the makeup world, community being seen. And can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Oh, absolutely. If I understand you right, you're talking about people of color, anyone,
Right.
right. So, you know, I think that for so long, cinema, when we look at modern cinema, it has been so dramatically Caucasian driven, into from every angle, from the crew to the talent. And, you know, as cinema has broadened and got more diverse, and most importantly, audiences are more diverse. And there is many more platforms now. There are many more platforms that we can view things. So whereas going to the cinema was maybe a bit elitist at one point because you'd have to save for a ticket, especially when I was a kid. I remember saving my pocket money so that I could go and watch a film, you know. And in England, we only had three channels growing up. We got a fourth by the time I was a teenager. There was Channel 4 as well. So woohoo. And of course, there are more now. And now we've got cable. And God knows how many. I remember when Dire Straits did 50 channels and nothing on or something like that. And one of the lyrics in their songs, that's aging me. Anyway, so I think that now we're in a place where the audience is global. Streaming platforms take images that we create around the world. And so we're having all sorts of people looking. And for me, the biggest compliment I ever receive, and I do get them from fans and people messaging me on social media, is you make us feel seen. You make us feel celebrated in your work. You see our skin tone. You make it beautiful on camera. It's very, very important that we represent people properly and that we understand different cultures, or that we're able to paint a face. Everyone should be able to mix a color and paint a face accurately, match a skin tone, be able to do character work on any skin tone. You know, for me, it goes back to 1995, actually, Jeff, because I don't even know, I was in my 20s, and I was doing a commercial with a guy, a Brit. He was a host at the BBC. He was Jamaican British. And I remember doing Norm's makeup, and Norm had very deep skin, very deep melanin. And I just mixed a color for him and did his makeup. This was literally, like I said, 95. And he looked at me and he said, "How did you do that? I can't believe you did that." I said, "What on earth are you talking about?" For me, you know, I'm an old art student. So for me, it's like I'm painting, I'm painting. It's no different, right? How do we mix color? How do we see color? So he said, "Sian, I've never had my makeup done like this before. I've never looked this good before." He said, "Most of the time people have said to me, you don't need makeup, you're black."
Really?
That was the first time I heard it. I have heard it thousands of times since 1995. Pretty much before I moved to the States in 2005, the number of actors that would say the same thing over and over and over. I know it happens to models too. This is not just a thing about film and television. This is across media. and across fashion too. Um, so people have had terrible experiences, makeup artists putting a lighter color on their skin because they don't have the full range of colors. And they don't even try and mix a color, which is the worst thing in my mind. So for me, enabling people to feel seen and as important, equally important to everyone, because there is no difference in the race. We are one race, we're a human race. But what we are seeing is colorism. We are seeing a difference in how people judge others by the color of their skin. That is not racism, that's color prejudice. And we need to start talking more about color prejudice over racism, because racism is a wrong definition. And I have had this conversation with a lot of Black actors too. They all say the same thing. Like, this is something we're talking about all the time. And it's on social media, it's on Twitter, it's out there, or it's not Twitter anymore, X, whatever it is. This is what people are talking about. And so now that we're having so many more Black driven movies or diversely driven movies, we have the Indian community represented, we have Native American community, Chinese, Asian, Japanese, whatever it is, you know, we're seeing all of these beautiful skin tones come to life. We have to be able to do them. Everyone should be able to do everyone. I have a makeup brand, so I used to do all of these makeup trade shows back in the day. Unfortunately, COVID put paid to that. They all stopped pretty much. But I used to go out and give masterclasses on stage in front of 200 students or 200 attendees, actually. And they could be any ages. They could be brand new students or they could be seasoned pros. And I would be talking to them and saying, you know, how do you have someone sitting in your chair and you cannot apply their makeup and give them the goods that they need to go out and do? Shame on you. You cannot call yourself an artist, because an artist can paint. Right. This is not about just doing color by numbers. This is about seeing people, seeing their complexion, and be able to give them exactly what they need to get there. So I started this after Cloud Atlas. So after 2012, that was when I sort of started a mission. When Black Panther hit, it was even more so. And I would mentor people quietly and what have you. And then people started catching on because I was quite loud, Jeff. And I was going around doing this all the time, putting posts on social media, raising awareness, and things did start to change. However, it hasn't changed enough, in my opinion. I don't think that the education is done properly. You know, you've got a lot of private courses that are really quick, and there are elements that are not being addressed. For example, in my opinion, every makeup school should have a 6-week art course teaching people how to paint with paints first. Because if you can paint and if you understand color, then you can apply that to your work as a makeup artist. And so many of the great makeup artists I know were all artists or are all artists. They all paint. You know, I'm an old art student. It's 3 years of art school. You know, you understand so much. You learn so much. That's how I could do Norma when he said, "How did you do that?" Well, because I see you. I can. Here you go. I'm mixing. Look at that. It's a paint.
And so when you say your skill in painting informs the makeup, are you talking about, and I don't want to make it too simplified, are you talking about color? Are you talking about tone? Are you talking about just the craft of painting, specifically what part of the painting comes through in the makeup? Or maybe it's all of it. Of course.
All of it. Because, for example, black skin tones, you know, you've got the depth of color, then you have some skin tones, like if you've got someone from Uganda, they've basically got a plum with blue in it, very deep. You've got a skin tone or a portion of people that are called Dravidian skin tones, Dravidian. Those skin tones you can find in East India, in parts of deep East Africa. These are the darkest skin tones you can get. They're almost black, like black, blue, black. There's a model out there called Kudria, and her skin is blue black. So you can you paint those skin tones. Then, the further north you go, Moroccan skin tones have got more olive and yellow in them. West African, a little bit more red in them. East African, again, everything changes. So you have to start looking at people and seeing them. You go to the Caribbean, you've got Jamaican people, they're slightly more neutral. Um, Trinidadian people slightly more light and yellow because of the blend that you get in Trinidad due to indentured servitude become the blend of the Eastern Indians that were brought over. So history plays a big part of it too. But in terms of understanding color and tone, all of those apply. All of them apply. And knowing how to do color theory so that if you need to color correct, or if you need to put character into a face, you use those pigments that will enable that to happen and read within that skin tone. And that is something that is not being taught. I know it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And how did you come to um, your ideas and your theories on makeup? Because I know last time we talked about, you steer away from powder, you like the painting technique. Did you start out that way or did you develop that over time?
I do this technique for certain things only. It's so, for
Oh,
example,
okay.
if I have to do a movie that is a beauty makeup and she's got to have a character of a heavy makeup face and powder, I'm going to use it, right?
Gotcha, gotcha.
But this technique in particular is something for nude skin, like and as nude, so it reads like there's no makeup on the face.
I gotcha. Okay, interesting.
Hmm.
So it's in a sense invisible makeup.
Yes. It is.
Interesting.
It's pretty much probably the most difficult because it's not a prosthetic based thing. This is just paint, and you're changing someone. You can give someone a facelift with paint. You could just by changing the contouring, where you put your highlights, how you highlight into the crevices, different tones, different pigments that you can put into the skin that lift it, all sorts of things. So paint is really powerful. And doing it invisibly is definitely an art form that I would like to see evolve because I'm so tired of seeing people looking powdery and flowery, men that look like they've got makeup on. They really shouldn't. There's no need. And it's, again, in one of my brilliant moments, I remember being on a stage with a bunch of sort of influencers in terms of industry influencers, agents, speakers, commentators. And when I remember how hard we were trained and how much we had to do to evolve our craft when I was starting, it really, I remember just saying, um, since when was mediocrity the goal? Really, really, when was mediocrity the goal? What happened to really wanting to excel and really keep developing the craft forward and making people feel amazing in the process and giving them that gift, that extension to their character development? When did all that go? I had girls in I had makeup artists at New York Fashion Week reaching out to me at one point because I brought out two palettes for my brand. One was called Essence, the other Melanin. Melanin is the deepest skin tone palette you will ever see, and no one's done it. And I had artists coming to me or coming to the Instagram account for the brand and just saying, I had a model sit in my chair, cry when she saw the colors in your palette because she said, finally someone's making something for us rather than seeing makeup artists trying to mix black with brown with this with that. At least that artist was trying, but for the first time someone had created it for them. So this is a real thing, Jeff, that we're talking about. It's really important.
Well, that brings me to another question. How do you develop a makeup brand? How did you do that? I mean, what's that process like?
God, expensive. Oh my God, expensive. I started out making makeup brushes because I just thought, let me make makeup brushes because they're rubbish. This was back in 2009, and I was about to do a big movie. I couldn't find the brushes I was looking for. European brushes were amazing, well ahead of anything we sold here. And so I thought I'm going to start, and I self-funded. I think I made 11 different types of sable makeup brushes. And my first trade show, they sold out. I could only afford to make 25 of each brush.
Wow.
Handmade in the UK. Yes. Beautifully made. Beautifully made. Anyway, I sold out, expanded the line, kept putting the money back into the brand. And then over time, I thought, you know what? I can't just do brushes. I have to expand. And really, the turning point came on Black Panther because I was Chadwick Boseman's personal. It was Chad's personal. And, I wanted to make him look more West African because that's a different skin tone. It's deeper than Chad was, even though when he tanned, Chad would get very deep because he had Nigerian origins. So, but basically all of the makeups that you see on the Warrior Falls, I've hand painted him, his entire body, because he got a farmer's tan from his panther suit. So this would be a different tone to that. And I started mixing silicone. There was a brand that used to make a silicone cream makeup, and then I started adapting it and adding my own colors and mixing other stuff and just experimenting because my generation, we did not have the huge color range that we had. So we really were alchemists. A lot of my peers are all doing similar things in different areas of their makeup expertise. They're inventing things. And so, I used to hand, and also I didn't want to airbrush him because I didn't want him breathing in all the fumes. Also some days it was very cold. Airbrushing can be very cold. So it was sometimes quicker for me to hand paint him with a big makeup brush and then put all the details in, and he was good to go. And so I just started thinking, you know what? I'm seeing all of the makeup artists in this trailer really having issues with a lot of the foundations that we were using. They were too orange or too yellow. They didn't have red toned ones, or they didn't have purple toned ones. They just didn't have the right colors. And it was at that point that I thought, you know what, I've got to do this. I've got to do this because I need it. I'm sure if I need it, other people will need it. And those two palettes became bestsellers. They were overnight. They're kind of an industry standard palette, those two. And then since then, it's been crazy. So, I brought out other products. And a couple of years ago, I brought out Starface, which was an airless pump cream version. So it wasn't just a pro thing. I started now making for anyone who wants to buy the product, consumer. But I know a lot of actors, and I have a lot of friends who are actors. And they say to me that they're always so comforted when they see the makeup artist pull out either an Essence or a melanin palette because they know that person gets it a bit more. They said, if we can't have you, we'll have your brand. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very sweet. It's really
Yeah.
sweet.
Well, before we wrap up, I have a little surprise for you. I reached out to a friend of mine who's done a lot of makeup on some of my projects, Leslie Alexander, and I said, I told her I was going to have you on the show, and I said, what would a makeup person want to ask another makeup person? And so she actually gave me some really great ideas. One of the things she asked, which I thought was a really interesting question, was how do you, we always think about makeup as, well, us laymen like myself think of makeup as, making things prettier, which is, I know, not exactly correct, but you're trying to clean things up and make things, proper for film. But there's beauty in the imperfection, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so what's the process where you take the imperfection of someone's skin and make it work for the character and work for the makeup? Does that, I think that question makes sense. How does that work? Or can you give me an example of that maybe?
I mean, I can absolutely give you an example. Sometimes if someone's scarred, then that's one thing. If you need to use the scar for that character, if it works for that character, then go ahead and use it. Sometimes you have to paint out that scar a little bit, knock it back, change the dimension of it, or accentuate it, use it as a base and then expand on that for the character. But in terms of color on skin, pigmentation issues, what have you, if I can use it, I do. But what I prefer to do is to control it. So I would rather, like, for example, with Mike, when he played Smoke, I put all of those imperfections into Smoke. I put different pigments and I put different structural changes to him that were imperfect, even down to his moustache leaving one side softer and more lopsided than the other, or eyebrows being a bit more disheveled. I put that character into him because it is the imperfection that makes the thing look real. When you have everything too perfect, you've lost it. If it's too cleanly trimmed, it's like sometimes I see moustaches and they've been barbered off and they've got this sharp edge. And it's like, oh God, like, would that character really have that? Why aren't you scissor cutting it and making it softer or leaving it longer, whatever it is? That's where Lakeith, for example, is outstanding because he's completely in alignment with anything that I do. He's like, just, you know what to do. Why am I going to question it? But yes, you have to put those imperfections in, just like Tilda did when she did her wonky lip liner. It's the same deal.
Well, another question that she asked was, how do you balance creating that tone, that makeup tone for the character versus the camera and versus the lighting? What's the process? Is that done in testing, or how do you
Yes.
balance all those? Yeah.
So basically, first of all, you should do camera tests. So, makeup is always developed, and I always take multiple photographs. I take photographs in the makeup trailer under the makeup lights, and I bring my own lighting. I do not use trailer lighting. So I control the lighting so that I'm matching the lighting. It has a high Kelvin, or I can dim it down, or I can add, if we're shooting in tungsten, I can put a tungsten filter over
So
it.
you're mimicking the camera lighting
Trying
oh,
to.
yeah, interesting. That's
trying
smart.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then we'll do a camera test and then we see how it's graded, right? It's not just the camera test, you have to see those rushes and see how it looks to see where that's taken you, and then you start to tweak from there. For me, I'm always tweaking. I'm always looking down the lens. I'm always looking at the monitor, and I don't look at the little digital monitor. I look at the special effects, the DIT monitor, which is the high definition. So I'm always looking, and I'm always asking the DP if I can look down the camera lens because I want to see exactly what they're seeing for myself, and then I will make changes. So, they'll do a rehearsal and then an actor will go off to the side whilst they're lighting it, and I'll make any tweaks then and readjust them and balance them. But I'm always checking. I never stop.
And are you having to adjust when you go from, say, a different lens, for like your,
No,
no.
no, it's always affected by light. And light and environment. So depending on the colors of a room, or if we're outside, green trees, cold skies versus brightly sunshine with yellows and blues, all of those elements, it's all about light. And it's all about the colors surrounding your actor. Even their clothes sometimes will reflect a pigment up on their skin, especially deeper melanin. It is a mirror for anything. That's why it's so beautiful to work on, because DPs can really light it. And, I remember working with Paul Cameron when we did 21 Bridges, and the way he lit Chad, the colors that he shot across his face was so exquisite. But you had to have that depth of melanin to get the bounce back so that you would read it. And paler skin doesn't do that. It will tend to sort of, it doesn't have that bounce because you don't have that depth behind it. It's so much lighter. So it works in different ways and responds to different things. But really, that's why I've always said, the people that make the decisions about which films get nominated really need to understand the art form it is to do deep melanin, how important it is. They need to look at maybe their own skill set. If they're working makeup artists, or go and work on something, because a lot of them don't. And I feel that it doesn't help the process. I think that an educated opinion from experience is worth a million ones that have never done it before.
Well, Sean, as always, this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you coming back and chatting with us. And
Thanks, Jeff.
let's do it again. And congrats on all the
Sure.
success.
Thanks,
All
Jeff.
right, take care.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Filmmaker Mixer podcast, a podcast created and hosted by filmmakers Jeff Stolen and Andrew Lamping, and produced by Melody Lopez.
Our theme song was composed by Stephen D. Bennett.
Make sure to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and stay tuned for future episodes.